There's a moment when you realize you're not tired because you're weak. You're tired because you are available to everyone. And the hard truth is that most of us are not overwhelmed because life is too much. We're overwhelmed because we never learned how to say no without feeling like a bad mom, a bad wife, bad employee, or bad human. If you've ever laid in bed at night replaying conversations, wondering why you agreed to one more thing, knowing deep down you were already maxed out, then this episode is for you. Welcome back to Struggle and Strength, Moms Balancing It All with Nikki. This is the podcast for moms who are doing everything, raising kids, holding families together, showing up for work, showing up for everyone, and quietly wondering when they are allowed to matter too. Today, we're talking about boundaries, not Pinterest version, not perfectly scripted version, the real uncomfortable emotional kind. I almost did a different episode today. I was going to talk about my recent Next Top Speaker experience, the growth, the lessons, the excitement. But then I realized something. The reason why so many moms never even get to experiences like that is not because they lack talent or drive or intelligence. It's because they never gave themselves permission to protect their time and energy. And I know this because I live it every single day. For years, I said yes automatically, and still to this day. I say yes to the extra commitments, yes to more responsibilities, yes to things I didn't even want to do. But because somewhere along the way, I learned that being a good mom meant being endlessly available. Here's what has recently changed for me, the moment of clarity that came about during one of my client calls. I didn't hit a dramatic breaking point. There was no big meltdown moment. It was quieter than that. I was just kind of spitballing with one of my clients. We're talking over my strengths and my current position, what I want to do with my business. And I noticed how resentful I was feeling, how short my patience was, how everything felt really heavy. And during that conversation, I realized I was exhausted not because life was hard, but because I never stopped giving. Boundaries weren't something I lacked, they were something I completely avoided because boundaries felt selfish, and moms are not taught to be selfish. Anytime that I have a client that's like, "Hey, can you do this?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." If my boss is like, "Hey, can you do this?" Yeah, I get it done. Anybody needs anything, I'm one step ahead of them, already grabbing, already doing, already preparing. But that doesn't give my mind any time to stop and relax and calm down and finally take care of myself. And I feel like that has been kind of the reason why I'm having so much trouble in my middle region after my C-sections is because I'm just going. And I can tell that I am just super stressed, even though I may not seem like I'm stressed, but I can feel it. I'm staying up till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And yes, I'm still getting my 5, 6 hours of sleep, which is what I thrive off of. But at the same time, when I wake up, I'm still exhausted. And even though I can spring back up and I can do it all over again and not feel any kind of remorse from that, it's taking a toll on my health and I can feel it because I like even though let's say I like eat like a pigeon one day, I still feel the same as if I ate like the whole entire Thanksgiving dinner myself. And I'm sure you moms know what I'm talking about. Like, even though people are like, "Oh, you don't have any issues with weight." It's like, "No, I don't." But I still, when I've been wearing because of the snow and ice storms, I've been wearing, sweatpants and not really any kind of form-fitting pants. And then I finally had to leave the house this past Friday and I put on a pair of pants. I'm thinking, "Wow, when did those get tight?" And I mean, I haven't even been doing anything. Like, I'm up all night. I eat very, very healthily. I don't even know, but I feel like it's all this cortisol is building up And I recently learned that it's called a menopause belly or a perimenopause belly. And it's when our estrogen levels drop. And when our estrogen levels drop, our muscle mass drops. And when you don't, our muscle mass is actually metabolic feeding, like when you are building muscle, you're burning fat. You're burning calories. And when you don't have muscle mass, you don't burn the calories. So then what happens in your mid 40s or when you're going into perimenopause, menopause stages after you have children is that the fat seems to just kind of collect in those mid areas, which is why I'm not able to lose this jiggly belly, which my kids remind me of all the time. I keep telling them, no, mommy's buns of steel. And they're like, yeah, right. No, mommy, they're jiggly. Anyways, it's a joke in my family. But if you know what I mean, moms, like we're not, buns of steel, muscles of steel over here. Like there's some pudgy areas. It may not look so pudgy, but it feels soft and it's not hard like you want it to be. So I'm making my own boundary, and I'm saying this out loud to make myself accountable, is that I will be in bed by midnight. I'm going to start at midnight for right now because it's been like 2 o'clock in the morning for the last 2 weeks. I will be in bed by midnight every single night. And if I can get to midnight, then I'm sure I can then push it down to 11 and then hopefully down to 10. That is my ultimate goal, but I'm taking baby steps because sometimes it's easier to take baby steps than it is to go full blown. And I also know that I have some deliverables that I have to do tonight. So I'm going to be up for at least the next 3 hours. Anyways, so here's the shift that changed how I see boundaries is that boundaries are not walls, they're instructions. They teach people how to treat you. So here's my problem is that I was having my clients be like, "Oh, Nikki, this is so important. I need it. I need it like yesterday. It's so important. I have to have this done." And the thing that I raced and I stayed up till 4 o'clock in the morning and on very wee hours worth of sleep, it's almost a year later and it still isn't done on their end. So I hold up my end of the bargain, but my clients are not necessarily holding up their end. So while I'm racing and stressing and staying up late and sacrificing my health, it's not so much on their end. So I've been teaching them the wrong way to treat me. And so I am going to start teaching the correct way to treat me because it's all about how they access you, what you value, and when you don't give instructions, people will take what's available. So when I'm like, oh, when they're like, hey, Nikki, can you jump on a call? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Should I? Probably not, right? Like when in the world can you just call somebody up is doing work for you and be like, "Hey, can you jump on the phone really quick and do this for me?" No. We all have things that we're doing. Of course, we're moms, we're stressed out to the limit. We have so many things that are going on. And even with our kids, we're always like, "Baby, give me a minute. Okay, mommy will do that in a minute. 1 second, please." So it's the same with our clients, the same with our kids, same with our husbands, same with anybody, is that we need to start giving strict boundaries of what we will accept and how they are supposed to treat us and access us. And not because our clients or our kids or our husband are bad, but it's just that we've never told them otherwise. So we need to start sticking up for ourselves and actually having boundaries so that we can get our own self in control of our lives, taking care of ourselves, and really, you know, fulfilling our lives to the maximum because we're happy, not because we're stressed out, because we're doing everything for everyone else and not getting things done for ourselves as well. So let's say this out loud. Most moms struggle with boundaries because we're afraid of disappointing people. Let me just tell you, this was the hardest thing that I had to do this past week. I had to tell my boss, look, there's no point in me joining these 9 o'clock morning calls because they're not necessarily for me. So I propose that I only join the call one time a week. And granted, I've been joining this call for the last 2, 3 years because it was assigned to me, but not because it was efficient or it needed to be, just because that's how it was that's how we could hold people accountable. We no longer need to do that. So why am I still attending a meeting that I don't really need to? There's no need for that. But I was afraid of disappointing. Like, what if I say, I don't want to attend this meeting? And then my boss says, well, what else are you going to do? Okay, I'm going to fire you. Would he do that? No, but I'm like making up these scenarios in my head. But it's also because I was afraid of disappointing my team and not being there. And that was not the truth. We're also afraid of conflict. Okay, I am not so much. I am very, I don't know what the word is, but conflict is not a problem for me. I will go and say whatever needs to be said, but it's just the disappointing people that's the big problem for me. And then also we're afraid of being seen as difficult. And I feel like that like people already see me as difficult. I feel like I'm the mom that all the organizations and people are like, "Oh my god, please don't let her talk to us." Because I just point out things that, like I have questions. They say, "Hey, if you have any questions, ask us." So I ask the questions. I'm the one that's like, "Hey, what about this?" Like suggesting new things. So I'm already difficult. So I think the biggest one for me is that I'm just afraid of disappointing people. And I don't want to let anybody down. And I feel like if I'm not available for my clients, they're gonna be like, "Ugh, well, she's not available for me. I'm gonna go elsewhere." And that's not the case. Like, try getting a hold of a lawyer. I just emailed our lawyer on Thursday and she's like, "Oh, I'll get to it next week." But I'm so used to and programmed to being like, "Oh, yeah, I'll get it done right now." Like, if it's something I can pump out, it's like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it." But I need to get in the habit of giving myself some time, even though I may or may not need the time. Just give yourself some time so that you don't have to have that stress. And if you grew up learning that love was tied to performance like I did, then boundaries feel especially scary. Because for me, it was always like, Nikki will handle it. Nikki is there, don't worry. And I I always got, everything was tied to what I did was how that showed love. And that's still how I show my love is by doing things. And that's not necessarily how everybody wants to receive the love, but that's how I put it out there because that's how I was raised. And because saying no also feels like risking connections. Like I mentioned earlier, if I say no, I feel like people are like, "Oh, like she's not available. She's not there for us." But boundaries actually protect. They protect your nervous system, they protect your joy, they protect your marriage, your relationship with your kids, your creativity, your ability to think clearly. They're not about controlling others, they're about honoring yourself. And here's the part we don't talk about enough. When you have no boundaries, your kids learn that exhaustion is normal, that overgiving is expected, and that self neglect equals love. And let me tell you, I've learned this firsthand because I'm watching this happen as I speak. My daughter is doing the exact same things, repeating the pattern of me in my childhood. And I need to tell her to stop because even though she is so sweet and so kind and so loving and so giving, it's also to the point where she doesn't like that's her joy. She's giving just like me in performance and what can she give to make others feel happy. And her brothers are taking advantage of it. That is not the lesson that we want to pass down. That's not the lesson that I want her to learn. I want her to learn. And actually, this is what my speech was about in the next top speaker was just this, that I gave and gave and gave so much as a young child that that's what I grew up thinking was love, or that's who I didn't even know who I was. I knew how to like do things and how to be resourceful, but I didn't know my own identity. And I don't want to do that anymore. I am Nikki and I'm setting my boundaries so that I know who I am, so that I am who I am. And boundaries are not dramatic announcements. Not like, "Whoa, I'm telling you my boundaries." No, sometimes they look like, "Let me get back to you. That doesn't work for me right now. I need to think about that before I commit." Sometimes they look like doing less, not more. Like today, my husband literally was watching TV and laying around in bed while I'm in the office from like 8 a.m. until now 8:30 p.m. at night, catching up on all my work because yesterday I went to soccer games, then dive lessons and recitals and all those and watched a movie, did all those things. Now I'm having to play catch up. And so he's like, he comes in here, he's like, "Hey, are you going to cook dinner?" And I was like, "No, no, I'm not." Sometimes they look like doing less. I had to set my boundary. I need to get my client work done. You had the day to relax. So, therefore, please feel free to cook dinner. And sometimes they look like choosing peace over approval. And yes, people may be surprised, especially if you're like me and you have no boundaries up until like Friday. You may get some pushback, but the right people will adjust. And if those people are upset that you're finally putting in boundaries and thinking of yourself, let them. That is not for you to deal with. You need peace and rest and relaxation and stress free life. And the only way to do that is to set your boundaries and make sure that you know who you are and that you're doing everything in your power to be you. So here's a question I want you to take with you today. What are you doing out of obligation that is costing you your energy? For me, it was that 9 a.m. meeting. Your joy, your sense of self. And what would happen if you stopped explaining yourself? You know what's so funny is like every time my boss tells me, "I'm going to call you in 15 minutes." And like hours go by, days go by, and still no phone call. And I'm wondering, okay, like, where's the sense of boundaries there? But yet then I get a text message saying, "I'm free in 5 minutes, call me." And it's like, excuse me, you don't value my time or respect it. So why should I do that for you? So when I miss his call, I feel like I'm worried, right? Like, oh my gosh, what do I need to say? And he doesn't care. I don't have to explain myself, but I feel like I have to, right? Because I'm having to justify why I missed his call if I'm like in the bathroom and I missed a phone call. I don't need to explain myself, and you don't either. So if you're in a season where everything feels heavy, you might not mean it. Sorry, not you might not. It might not mean that you need to quit your life. Okay. It may not mean you need to quit your job or your dreams. It might mean that you need better boundaries. In this actually, the best part of what has happened recently is that I love the kids not going to school every day. And it has totally made me feel so much more stress-free in life. Like I don't have all of these things. We're not always on the go. And then now I'm putting in boundaries. Oh my gosh, it's like a new me, a new life. Because you are not too much. You're not failing. You're just overdue for protecting yourself. And that matters. So if this episode resonated with you, share it with another mom who needs permission to breathe. And remember, you're allowed to take up space in your own life. So please, if you enjoyed this episode, I really hope that you subscribe, send it to a friend. And until next week, keep showing up, keep staying consistent, and set your boundaries. Start protecting yourself because nobody else will.